Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wingcat Sports, and it's Lions post game. Lions beating the Bears 34-17. They kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit at the end. It probably could have been more points if they didn't go for it on fourth down so much, took a couple more field goals. But regardless, Jared Goff had a great day, 336 yards throwing, averaged 10.5 yards per pass, 3 TDs. Gibbs took care of the load running, 109 rushing yards, but we had 146 in total. Jameson Williams had a fantastic day, 5 catches for 143 yards. You sat him. You sat him in fantasy. Ross St. Brown also had a good day, 6 receptions for 70 yards and a TD as well. But overall, great day by the Lions. Good bounce back game. Gets them some confidence going into next week's game against San Francisco. And depending on what happens tonight versus Minnesota and Seattle, due to the loss of Philadelphia, the Lions will have a chance to not only clinch the division next week, but the first overall seed in the NFC if Minnesota loses tonight.
Which would be huge
if Minnesota
we could sit some of our players for that last week and rest everyone up and get ready for the playoffs. An extra week of rest. Yes.
Unless you want to try to have a certain opponent you want Minnesota to face. But at that point, it's going to be interesting basically where everyone sits. But I don't think anyone's catching up to Minnesota anyways. They probably will end up playing the 4 seed. Or will end up playing the 4 seed.
Do 3 people get a bye in the first round or just 2?
1 person gets a bye.
Huh?
Only one team gets a bye.
Only one person.
Only one seed gets a bye.
Okay. I'm trying to figure this out.
Peeking my head over real quick, it looks like Arizona could be losing to Carolina, which would be terrible for their playoff hopes in the NFC West.
Well, they do have the ball. I don't know.
Yeah, they're on.
They're punting it. Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, going back to the Lions game. It was a good game, but I will not spare to say Caleb Williams played fantastic for being usually playing in warm weather. Him playing in Chicago in the cold today, he played very well. 334 yards and 2 TDs. So far, Caleb Williams has done fantastic against the Lions in his career. His first 2 games, I believe, are both very, very well stat-wise. So he might be someone we have to look out for in the future. Running-wise, they only ran for 59 yards, and that is why Chicago really ended up losing this game. They got the ball in the air, but they could not get the ball going on the ground whatsoever.
They were never in this
game. Turnovers killed them too. 2 costly fumbles.
The first thing that was big, but they were never in this game. It was a near perfect game for the Lions, with the exception of the unnecessary. And it's not a big deal. Didn't matter. Didn't cost them anything, but there's no point in going for a 4th down at that point. Kick a field goal, win the game.
Unless they were looking at practice and be like, let's try some 4th down situations and see what happens.
That's just a dumb
But they
call.
shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it, but whatever.
Right.
It didn't hurt you in the end.
It didn't hurt you. It didn't do anything.
Hopefully be smarter than that in the playoffs. Be smarter than that in the playoffs.
You can't do that. Right?
Overall, again, it was a great game by the Lions. It builds your confidence back up from last week. Defensively, though, maybe could be a little bit better than only sacking Caleb Williams 2 times on a terrible offensive line by the Bears. But,
are we going to criticize that defense where we don't even know half the people who are playing?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
They held them to 17 points?
Hold them to 17 points. Oh, that's it. They were pressuring Caleb Williams. He got the ball off today. But, I mean, you only sacked him. You took him a whole game to sack him with that terrible offensive line.
Right.
But that'd be my only critique from today is you didn't really sack Caleb Williams. But again, 4th and 5th stringers, what else can you ask for?
Points, and they did their job. And like I said, you were right in the beginning. Chicago shot themselves in the foot, turned the ball over a couple times.
But they did great on 4th down today. Fantastic for Chicago on 4th down. I think they made all 4 of their attempts on 4th down.
Yeah.
So that really kind of screwed the Lions over in that part with getting their offense continually going and probably a boost for the defense. But again, next week, it's looking good. Right now, obviously, we're making this in the beginning of the Minnesota Seattle game.
McCaffrey,
but
I don't even know where the 49ers even in the playoff picture.
They're 500 right now, I think. But looking at it right now, Minnesota is winning 7-0 at the end of the first. And they have the ball, so they could be going up 14-0, maybe more than that. We'll see what ends up happening overall with that. But again, if we get lucky enough that Seattle somehow beats Minnesota, they are in Seattle. Um, the next week is a very big game for the Lions on Monday night. So we will see what happens. You'll probably know next week too, because it's Monday night. You'll have the advantage if Minnesota wins today. You're going to play the Packers next week before you even play the 49ers. So
Right.
so you'll have a good idea of what you need
I
to
think
do
the
next
Packers
week.
are going to beat the Vikings next week.
We'll see. We'll see. We will see.
I think they will.
But we put ourselves in a good spot. Lots of stuff happened today. Very good situations for the Lions.
Carolina just won.
And they should feel confident going into next week. Right now, the 49ers are 6-8. And they're playing Miami this week. So they could be 7-8 or they could be 6-9 going into that Monday night matchup. And again, all depending on what happens these next two games for Minnesota. That last game either could be very important for the Lions or it's going to be a nice put your feet up. Everything's good. Rest some people who you really need to rest.
But considering Dan Campbell, I don't think he'll rest anybody.
He probably will.
That's his, and I don't like that. Like I said,
I think
there is an element that I hope does not keep us from achieving.
I think he will rest
something else, and that's his pretty much at least once a game brain fart, and a lot of times it doesn't matter, but I just don't get him sometimes. And if we have that number one locked in before the last game, they shouldn't play a single damn starter. Shouldn't play Goff. Shouldn't play anybody.
Yeah, I think what they'll end up doing, if they clinch everything, they'll probably rest anybody who is somewhat hurt. Anybody who has some kind of injury but has been playing through it, they're not going to play that much. They might get a series or two in here and there, but they're not going to play majority of the game.
Right, and
I think that's what happens. If you're healthy, you're going to play.
You
keep yourself loose.
I understand that. You got to put somebody out there, but there ain't no way I'm playing Gibbs in that final game. Vaki and Reynolds did fine today.
Vaki and Reynolds did fantastic against them.
Really well.
They played what they had to. Even Jamar Jefferson, he had a couple catches.
The guys they put in there all contributed and all made big plays. I have no qualms at all about not playing Gibbs that final game if we don't have to.
If we don't have to. We are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Right.
But it's because we're a little excited. The Eagles lost today, and that gives us. It was the one thing I was saying. If somehow the Eagles lose to the Commanders, which they did, that opens your path up a lot easier for these next 2 weeks. Like I said, we got to pay attention to the Vikings this week and next week. If they win this week, then we got to pay attention to them more next week and to see what happens and what we need to do on Monday Night Football. Luckily, again, they play before we do.
Guys, we won 13 games.
And 13, franchise record. Which is a franchise record.
No
13 games.
To be negative at all. I loved what Aaron Glenn said before, when they asked him, they said, what the hell are you guys so down about? Why are you guys so down? We're 12-2 before the game. Now we're 13-2.
13-2, looking at to be 14-2.
I don't care if we lose the last two games. We shouldn't be down. This is a great team. It's already proven. 13 wins, you're elite. You're an elite team.
You are eyeing 14-2. I said this at the beginning of the year, and you told me I was crazy. That our ceiling was 15-2.
Yeah, no way I would have thought 15-2.
That our ceiling.
I just think that's crazy. I think I guessed 11-6.
I said our ceiling was 15-2. But the thing is, I said 15-2 if everything went right. And everything has not gone right.
And they still could go 15.
And they could still go 15-2. I said the basement for them this year should have been 10 wins, obviously. I thought that's where you'd be if everything didn't go right.
Right.
I was proven wrong that this team is good enough to, even with all these injuries, to be an elite team. And they should at least be 14. I think my prediction was 13-4 on the year. We are right now at 13 wins. Same thing with my uncle when he predicted too. He said 13 wins. You were at 11.
Right.
They surpassed your expectations.
Rejoice.
We are at
Rejoice.
basically they have met expectations for the year, but obviously the full-on expectation is to be in the Super Bowl, and hopefully we can continue that path to it.
Right. You know how freaking crazy 13 wins is? I mean, that is just never had this in our city. Ever. We should be ecstatic right now.
Even if this was a 16-game season, you reached 13 wins before that 16
They've
game.
never done that before.
Because
You know, they're over there across, but they're doing it. Minnesota's doing it with basically being unnoticed because
of us, and that's why they're not happy
Because
about it.
we're in the first place. But they're doing it and they're having. But the reason they're having that is because they have that schedule. I think
A
that's
little
a
bit
big
ea-
part
a
of it.
little
They
bit
haven't had-
easier.
We've done it with a first place schedule. We've done
Mm-hmm.
it playing basically only having maybe 3 or 4 weeks where I said that we were getting gimmies and stuff like that, where we had teams that we had to beat.
Yeah.
But for the most of the season, we've been kicking ass.
Yes, you have. I mean, like I said, you're gonna have your moments. Like the
Right.
Bills, fantastic offense. You weren't stopping Josh Allen. 48 points right there. Your other little fluke against the Bucks, right? With how your team was
Right.
playing, they were still kind of rusty a little bit, trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And there you go.
Right.
You end up figuring out how to win there. Even the Rams game, right? You won OT to start the year. That was again, you're rusty. You're figuring it out. But once you got going, you got going. 42.
I don't care who you played. If you win 13 games, you are an elite team. Minnesota's an elite team. Green Bay is probably going to be an elite team. We have 3 elite teams in our division. And we have an up-and-coming team in the Bears, where if they just got some good coaching and they're talking, I didn't like the fact they were talking Ben Johnson through that whole broadcast about how he's going to go there. That's not for sure. Ben Johnson's smarter than that. And they got a moron for a GM over there in Chicago. So Ben Johnson thinks about stuff like that. He isn't going to go into
Ben Johnson ain't going to do nothing he don't want to do. He enjoys his time. Now, I'm saying that I've said this about a couple players. You win the Super Bowl, though, there could be a lot of people retiring, moving on, right?
And being a great coordinator does not make you a great head coach. It's a different gig. And you're not running the offense over there. You're going to have an offense coordinator. And I don't know.
No, he can still technically run the offense. There's some head coaches. There's some head coaches that do that.
It's a different gig. You got to take on other responsibilities. You can't. He likes being an offensive coordinator, and I think he's smart enough to realize that unless he's going to a real good situation, why do it?
But there's a very good chance, though, with how this team is playing, that you don't have either coordinator next year. I see Aaron Glenn going to the Saints.
Aaron Glenn, yes,
he's probably going to, because he played for the Saints. I'm sure he's probably going to be coaching the Saints next year.
Yes.
And then we'll see where Ben Johnson goes. You're going to probably have 2 brand new coordinators.
We're getting ahead
next
of
year.
ourselves. Okay.
But anyways, good game. Even the Bears, they didn't play bad. You put up 17 points, but you didn't play bad.
You
didn't play bad at all.
You might have been right in this game.
You.
I like the Bears. I like the direction they're taking, but
Caleb Williams has looked good in the 2 games against the Lions, so we can at least say that. With all that being said, though, if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, share the video around. Let me know what you think about the game. And until next time, hope to see everybody soon.